Hey guys, what's going on? It's Roth and Joshua here to talk about Constantine. Now, I just want to say up front, this is not a review.
No.
We have seen an early version of this pilot, which is set to air in October on NBC. But things can change a lot in that time. Characters can be entirely recast and pilots can be reworked. So what we're doing here is just a first impression of this pilot, and then we'll have a more formal review later on, closer to the air date. But first and foremost, what'd you think?
You know, we've been seeing a lot of comic book, TV show pilots now. We had Gotham and Flash, and now Constantine. And I actually think that Constantine was the strongest effort so far.
Yeah, I liked The Flash a lot too, and I thought that it sort of had a clear trajectory. I understood where that show was going too, but I also really loved Constantine, and obviously they're very different shows. This is kind of the darker, supernatural, occult detective series. Mm-hmm. It's a little more noir, but it's also actually, it's not heavy. It's actually quite fun.
Yeah.
And it's enjoyable to watch, I thought.
It actually reminds me of Doctor Who.
We were
not
just talking
as
about this.
Goofy as Doctor Who, but
How
of sort of like this
dare you.
quippy, quick British guy who knows everything about a really crazy topic, this being magic this time, and demons and the occult. And with this a companion, he gets a sort of a sidekick, Liv, and just they go around solving sort of a mystery, and I thought that was great.
Adding a little bit of your likening to Doctor Who, I think the other sort of thing that they have in common is that the Doctor is this really quick-witted sort of guy, but he does, especially in the new incarnation, but in general, he's also he can be a haunted person, and there. If you watch Doctor Who now, this series, there's a big thing that he's done that's sort of haunting him. Again, with Constantine, and this is a thing that is true for the character, he has, and we won't say what it is, he's made a mistake. And it's not a spoiler to say that he's damned to hell, and he's trying to redeem himself, and that's sort of one of the goals in the series. But they make it a far more recent event, which is sort of interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if those who have seen the Keanu Reeves movie...
It's very different than that.
Which I actually I like that movie a lot, but it's very different from the comic book. But that's still the essence of the character. Is he's done something bad, and he's kind of a jerk, and he manipulates people, and he's a swindler, but he's still trying to do something good to redeem himself. So that's still the focus of the show. And I think they, like I said, it's a very confident pilot. They established the tone, where it's dark, but not super horror, scary, but still fun and cool and interesting and exciting. It borrows a lot of horror tropes, the lights going out all of a sudden and all this stuff, but it makes a point to why it's doing all of that, and I liked it. I thought it was great.
I thought that the horror elements, again, there's sort of a lot of horror series on the air right now, and some of them are really quite dark and wonderful, like Hannibal, and very gory. These horror elements are executed really well, but not so sort of horrific that you would have to, I think, really gauge the age too much about who's sort of appropriate to watch this show. Or maybe I would just be a horrible mother. I don't know. But the other thing, I agree. I'll say this about the tone in terms of the mix of the horror and the comedy is that you likened it to Doctor Who. It reminds me a little bit, for those that are even not comic fans, people that like things like Buffy and Angel may sort of like the supernatural element in this one as well. That is it's just larger than life, obviously, in every way. Talk a little bit about the comic. Do you think that this sort of stays true to the roots? Certainly, a lot of people had big complaints about, we've mentioned the Keanu Reeves movie. What do you think?
No, I think, the comic was called Hellblazer.
The original
back in the day.
Well, yeah, the original comic was called Hellblazer, but now it's Constantine, and there's a big, people are upset even about that. But anyway, talk.
Yeah, but the classic one, this is the spirit of that. Sort of modernized a bit, because that was done a while ago, and that one could also be really intense and scary, that comic book, and that's sort of what it's known for. That's why it was so good. But this is sort of, it's a lighter version of it, but still, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. Matt Ryan, the actor, is Constantine. Just the way he handles everything and his British accent. He's
Liverpool
blonde.
Man.
Yeah, he's got the trench coat. He's not smoking. At one point, they show him sort of smoke, but then put the cigarette down. But he's not. They don't actually show him smoking as sort of a nod to it, because he was a chain smoker in the comic book.
Yeah, one of the things, and they have to, because because it's a television series on network TV, they cannot have him be the chain smoker that he was.
Which is sad. The chain smoker is Constantine. But it's like Wolverine without his claws.
but they do allude to it a little bit. And also I would say this about him is that he is, so the new version, the new comic, Constantine, he's this younger version. This guy is 33, Matt Ryan is 33, but he's a very cagey, like lived, old, gritty man, 33. So it's like, I think he does capture sort of, he's youthful in the sense of like, he's not an older guy, but he is a grittier guy. This is not a young, fresh-faced, sort of handsome, piercing eyes and jaws superhero guy.
He's seen some stuff.
Although he has piercing eyes and a
so
nice
all this
jaw.
we seem to have like a good impression on. Is there anything you didn't like about it?
That's a really good question. I really liked it. I don't think that this is going to be something, I mean, this isn't sort of like, there's so many levels of caliber of television, right? Mm-hmm. There's like, sort of the Wire of the world and the True Detectives and then there's, this is meant to be a good time, but have some grit to it and tell really engaging stories. And I think it does that really well. Mm-hmm. So there's not a lot I didn't like about it, no. You?
I would say the one thing I had a problem with was Liv. I didn't really, because she's like the co-star of the show, and I didn't really latch onto her character, and I thought she was a little too deer caught in the headlights at times. And that I would like to her to be a little more engaging, a little more interesting. She's too much of a blank slate. We know that Constantine has this past, but I want to know more about like her. You know what I mean? There's room for her to grow, but I think she could have made a stronger showing in the pilot.
Yeah, just to give a little bit of context to that, there's a character named Liv Aberdeen who becomes, Joshua alluded to, the fact that he'll sort of have a companion in his journey, and Liv is going to be that companion. You don't want to say too much about what her story is, but she does have powers as well. I have faith that over time that they can develop this character. I think that the most important thing for this pilot was to establish Constantine as a guy that we could get behind and follow, and I really think that they did that.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
All right, guys, those are our long-winded initial thoughts about Constantine. You can't really let us know what you thought yet, but come on, October you can. But tell us what you're looking forward to in this series, and leave your comments below. Keep it locked here to IGN for all things Constantine, comic books, and TV.